Audio. Okay.
Yes. Very good morning to all of you. It gives me immense pleasure in inviting you all to a technical webinar on epitome of software development and healthcare. May I now request our principal to give a welcome address as well as to felicitate the gathering. Please, sir. Mr. Lakshman is our a proud alumni of BECSE 2014 batch. He was recruited by BNY Mellon in campus. He worked there for 3 years and he completed his master's in University of Arkansas. And later on, he joined Walmart's lab. He is presently working in health and wellness domain. And he is in that particular domain for more than 5 years. He is now senior software engineer in Walmart lab. So I now request Lakshman to take up the session. Sir, principal, sir.
Yes, madam. Am I audible?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. You are audible, sir.
Yeah, thank you.
So,
thank you.
sorry
for the
Yes, sir. Yes,
there is a technical issue. So, welcome, Mr. Lakshman Arnasalam.
Thank you so much, sir. Appreciate it.
Yeah. So, respected HOD of Computer Science and Engineering Department and our beloved and proud alumni, Mr. Lakshman Arnasalam, Senior Software Engineer from Walmart Labs, USA, 2014 passed out from Computer Science and Engineering Department, and faculty members and my dear students. Very warm welcome and good morning to one and all. So first of all, on behalf of our respected chairman, sir, members of the management, all the faculty members, students, and my own behalf, I wholeheartedly thank and welcome our proud alumni, Mr. Lakshman Arnasalam, for accepting our invitation to present this technical webinar. It is an international technical webinar on epitome of software development and healthcare. So really, we are very fortunate to have our own alumni, who is an expert with respect to this particular field, and also for the benefit of our students and faculty members, this webinar will be very, very useful. So thank you, Mr. Lakshman Arnasalam, and also I would like to thank the organizers, particularly the Department of Computer Science and Engineering, all the faculty members, and the HOD, Dr. T. Sedukarsi Madam, for conducting this technical webinar for the benefit of all of our students and others who are interested to know about this software development practices for their career development. So once again, I thank each and everyone for giving this opportunity to interact with you on this day. So thank you. Welcome.
Thank you so much, sir. Appreciate you.
Appreciate
you.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, thank you so much.
So may I now request Lakshman to take up the session?
Sure, ma'am. Thank you. Good morning, everyone. Ma'am, can I share my screen? So I think I do have access.
Yeah.
Okay, sure. So. So welcome to the session. Sorry about my bad throat. I think I will be coughing here and often, so please don't mind. So I'll introduce myself. I'll give a brief intro about me. Myself, Lakshman, and as ma'am said, I graduated University of I graduated my undergrad in 2014, Computer Science and Engineering, and I joined BNY Mellon. I was there for around 3 years, and then I moved to US for my master's. So I did my master's in engineering management in U of A, and then I joined Walmart. So I'm here in Walmart for close to 5 years. I started as a software engineer too, and right now I'm a senior software engineer. Most of my experience are in healthcare domain, pharmacy, online pharmacy, and then through Android app, Walmart app, and then I moved to healthcare division, where I I lead a full stack team of 18 developers across 3 Scrum teams. It's a full stack team, so we have I kind of manage and lead the UI team, the interface team, and as well as the backend team. So that's a brief intro about me. I know this session is more about what a software development means to engineers out there in the field, right? So when you as a student, you are over there, and when you join the industry workforce, there are certain gaps, right? And I believe that, the schools nowadays, when I say schools, like, colleges in India too, like, starting taking measures to bridge that gap. And even ma'am was telling me what efforts being taken care at the RMK to bridge those gaps. So this is kind of one of that session. So I'll be talking a brief about a full stack development, what are the tech stacks currently used, and then moving over to the major topic of healthcare. And I request to have this session to be a little interactive so that we could have fun. Just think it like you are talking to one of your seniors rather than sitting through a session for an hour where you don't get anything, right? So you are spending 1 hour of your precious time when you are at school. So probably utilize that. Try to learn something out of this, even if it is 5% or 10% that contributes towards your career goal or career growth, then I'll be more than happy for that. So we'll try to have it as a fun, interactive session. I'm not going to ask too much of any too deep down technical questions and kind of put you in a bad spot. So it's going to be a little fun, interactive. What you know about the world, how do you think that software can solve those problems? It's more about that kind of a session. So I wanted to be a little interactive. Wrong answers are more than welcome, because that's how you learn. So when I was a student, I never hesitated to ask questions, even it was a silly or a naive one. I do try to ask questions, people who come and take class. I think Suresh Punjabi's class, I remember asking a lot of questions. So don't feel shy about it, because that is one quality, when you ask questions, that is a quality that inherit from your college. You go out to the world, and then when you see something you don't understand, you ask questions. People who ask questions are definitely going to, much get better at their career. That's what I believe in. So let's get into it. As I said, for the agenda, we're going to know what a full stack development is. There's a buzz in the industry. Hey, it's a full stack developer. They have a huge market for a full stack developer. So what are the tech stacks out there? And right, it's not that each and every individual has to be a full stack developer, but when you think about solving a problem, you need to think from each and every perspective of a software system. So that again makes you a full stack developer. So we'll see some tech stacks, what are currently used, and I'll be touching more on web development, trying to ask some questions, see what you guys think about web development, and people who are interested, probably, we can have a separate session on the web development part, because I'm more towards the web development. Then we'll also have a look at our Netflix architecture. I chose Netflix because that's something we could easily connect with, right, with everyone. So that I'll just give a microservice architecture on Netflix. And then I'll talk more about healthcare, and then we'll have our Q&A sessions. I want the Q&A sessions to be more interactive. You can ask me about the real lifetime problems. My experiences, like, I graduated 2014. Right now it's 2023, close to 10 years. So I can share all my learnings, what I had, ups and downs, and how I handled in my career, how to overcome each and every, situations. Probably my learnings could also help you guys. So you guys don't need to go through that tough path. Maybe my learnings can help you out, right? That's what I usually do. So a little about me. Off late, I'm more involved into universities as well. So I go to universities for career recruitment, guest lectures. I was at CMU, Carnegie Mellon 2 weeks back, and then I'm going to U of A next week. for a talk. So I'm more into the getting into the school infrastructure where we go and recruit students. So I'm more involved on that as well. So probably those things can also help you guys, if anyone wants to do higher studies and other things. So we'll go into full stack development. I'll stop at the end of each and every slide. I don't have much slides because I always believe like having an interactive session only helps rather than slides with more words. So I'll stop at each and every slide. I'll pause for like 2 to 3 minutes for some questions. It can be very naive. It can be, it can be so naive that, everyone knows it, but you still ask for that question. I'll be happy to answer. So let's get into full stack development, right? So if you look at the circle, there are a lot of things, right? There is front end over here, there are servers, there is a DevOps, database, and backend. So people might think like, hey, backend and server, it's more of interrelated, but yes, everything is connected. And what connects everything is actually the DevOps tool. So let me talk about front end. At the time I graduated from RMK, there was no AngularJS, neither React, but JavaScript was the base, right? People started building frameworks on top of JavaScript. So AngularJS came in, React came in, Vue.js, Bootstrap, Golang, lot of frameworks came in, like languages came in. So front end is more about consider what you see on the screen, right? So anything that you interact, for example, Amazon.com or Flipkart, anything you interact with the UI is kind of a front end, and there are a lot goes behind building them. There is Bootstrap. Bootstrap is more about a CSS library that manages all the cascading style sheets and other things for you. And there is also UX. UX is more about gives you the component, what you need to build, and then you use Angular, React, and JavaScript to build that piece, right? So you can just picture that in your frame, like, what is that? So what is a backend? Now, so if you go to Flipkart or Amazon, there is something that shows you out, right? Okay, this is the product, this is the price of it. And these are, sorry, these are all live, runtime. It's just, it does not constant one. Sometimes something goes in the backend, it keeps updating. So there are many ways to fetch that data. One of the ways you call your backend server, right? It's called an API. So you fire an API call, you get the data what you need, you pass the query parameter. For example, the front page loads. So what you do is you pass in the query param saying that, hey, this is the page I'm loading. I need all these details, like, kind of a query param. So what the backend will do is fetch the data and give it to you. So the data it gives to the UI will be the JSON format. So UI has to understand the JSON format and display the data according to the need. Now, this is I'm putting it in a very simple term. Like, in the deep dive sessions later we will go deep dive into like how data could be efficiently stored at the UI and other things, right? For example, you fetch thousands of image in a Flipkart site, and you can cache that image. So caching happens at multiple levels. When we go into web development, I can talk more about the caching part. So, so caching is more about caching happens at the CDN level. CDN is nothing but, content management part. So it happens at the CDN, and some might happen at your browser also. It's a browser cache. So that's why sometimes you remember, I'm not sure if you guys have noticed it. Whenever you visit certain websites, it might ask you a pop-up asking a cookie manager, hey, we do certain things, blah 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 blah, accept the cookies or deny. Website might not load. Most of the times website force you to accept the cookies. That's where they inject those cookies into your browser, which means that they have your information and other things, and when you come back to the next time, it kinds of loads the data for you pretty quickly. I don't know if you guys have noticed that. So that's more about on the UI, and there is more to it actually. So when you come to backend, then there is Node.js, Express.js, Python, Java, Spring Boot, PHP. There are a lot of other things, right? So it depends on the need, right? I think still Java holds the key right now. It's been years, but Java has been pretty standard. They're releasing a lot of new versions and other things. So Java is pretty standard, but right now there is Kotlin also. I'm not sure if you guys have heard of Kotlin. So Kotlin is also similar to Java, but the advantage of knowing Kotlin is if you know Kotlin language, you can build Android apps. So you can write your own app. You can just build an app and ship it to Play Store, Apple Android store. But you cannot, with Kotlin, you cannot do app for iOS. So the both are two different platform systems. For Android, it is Kotlin, and for iOS, it's called Xcode. So just letting you know the advantage of knowing Kotlin. So there's Kotlin, Python, Java, so that you have to know the need. You just don't simply blindly learn, okay, it is Java, I'll go learn Java, right? You have to understand the need of it, understand what, how to term it, advantage it has other than Node.js or Express.js, and vice versa. In certain cases, Node.js might hold the card more to Java. So it's more about knowing what you want for your product or application you are trying to build, right? So that's backend. So that is front end that displays your data. That's backend that you write an API that provides you the data, but there is always the source of truth, right? The source of truth is where it holds in the database. So backend goes and connect with the database, get the data. There are a lot of new things coming up with the database management. There's MySQL, it's been for a long time, MongoDB, Oracle. I'm not more on the database guy, so I'm I have a very little idea on what is currently out there, but mostly it's MySQL or MongoDB and Oracle. So the backend service whom the front end is connecting to fetches the data from these databases and give you. Now, these three things I'm kind of sure like you guys have a pretty good understanding what a front end, back end, and database even before this call. But I'm not sure how many of you are aware of DevOps and servers. That's what makes you a complete full stack developer. So you say your database, right? You create your database, but you need to store it somewhere. Not only the database, you need to store the backend. You write an API and everything. It has to be in a container. It has to be somewhere else, right? You need to store it somewhere. Even the front end, I write the code, I ship my application, but I need to save it somewhere. Like how you create an app and you store it in the app store and you go and download it from there, and still it goes into your phone memory, right? So it needs a space to stay actually. That's where these servers comes into play. So there are two major players, and obviously I know everyone who knows who's the top of it, Amazon Web Services. So when you think of Amazon as a company, Amazon's retail income is only the second or the third. Their major income is through Amazon Web Services. So through Amazon Web Services, only Amazon earns millions and billions of dollars. And it's not through what you think through the Amazon app you order, through the retail and other things. No, it's not through e-commerce. Their SOS service is what earns them a lot of money. That's when like you can think of any major popular stream like Netflix, Hulu, and few others. Like there are a lot of other products. They are all stored in Amazon Web Services. So I think if I remember correct, I think probably 7 to 8 months back, AWS was briefly down for half an hour. They lost millions of dollars in that, but that's when people all realized how many of their services went down. Starting from Netflix was down, there were a few more other services were down, like there are a lot of other services were down mainly due to this outage. So, and their competitors are Microsoft Azure and Google Cloud. We at Walmart use Microsoft and Google, but not AWS, because being a major competitor, we don't use AWS. But AWS itself has its own, it's a separate career. You know, if you can go into servers, that's a cloud management. If there are a lot of inbuilt AWS tools, like, you know, pertaining only to AWS, you cannot use it elsewhere. It's their own one. But there are a number of tools that even if you learn that, right, there's a separate course for AWS. If you guys are more interested in cloud oriented and other things, you can have a separate career over there too. But other than that, even Microsoft has it and Google has it. So what we do is, we have our cloud storages in Azure and Google, but we have it in a way of plug and play, right? So people build their application, they host it in a container called WCNP. WCNP is our own DevOps kind of a system. It's called Walmart Cloud Native Platform. But that one goes and plugs and say, okay, where you want it in Microsoft Azure, so I'll go and host your server in a Microsoft, host all of your application in Azure, or it is in Google Cloud, right? So that's server part. And DevOps is more interrelated. Like How do you do that, right? You cannot just, take something and go and store it in a fridge or something like that, right? That's where the Kubernetes, Jenkins, Maven comes into play. When you build your application, it has to run through a lot of pipelines. So for example, say, I created an application, right? It's an UI application, but my application also gets the data from backend, but backend is a separate application. The interconnection is the API call I make to get the data, but I have my own application UI. I need to know if my application is working right? That's when I go and create a process called a looper. That's when I'll tell that, okay, when I create a PR is more like, it's through GitHub management. Your code is managed in GitHub. So what you do is you go and create a PR, type it and upload it to Git. It's a Git push or something. I can take a separate class on Git, but Git is more about managing your code. Whatever you write, it goes to the Git actually. So the Git, you can create a looper job, say that I want to run this test case each and every time I commit a code. So I push the code to the repository, this looper job will run. What that looper job would do is it will run the entire application. It's called automation, right? I know, I'm not sure if you guys have heard like the industry terms long back, like, it's like 8 or 9 years ago, there's a separate team called developer team who only focuses on developing the product, and then there is called a testing team who only focuses on finding fault on what developer builds. So they will call us cat and mouse between developer and QE. So this guy's job is only to build, this guy's job is only to find fault in what he did. That's it. So that's I'm just selling it for fun, but really the QE is more about a quality control where the person comes in and tries to run the application. Ideally, his job is to break the application. He has to try to break it in some way. If it is not, then the dev team has done a fantastic job. But if they have, then it goes back to the developer team. They have to fix the bugs that the QE found, and then it goes back to it. It is still in the industry world, but it is kind of getting leaner and leaner and leaner. Right now, with the full stack coming in and the agile method of Scrum teams coming in, there is no QA roles. There is no manual testing and everything. Those roles are all eliminated. It's all coming into QE. They're called quality engineers. Few teams have the developers own the responsibility of their own code. So I write the code, I test the code, and when I write the code, I put on the developer hat. When I test the code, I write automation, I put on the QE had. When I test it as a whole, I step myself into the customer's shoe and kind of test it. So if something you are building, right, if you don't use it, definitely customers don't use it. That's the mindset that you should have when building something. It might not be engineering, it might not be even software development or anything. That's a thought process that should go in any field you are in, right? So it's developers' responsibility to test the code what they write, and quality engineers sometimes comes and write the automation test cases. If there is a third-party integration, then they would be they'll be doing all the test cases. So that's where DevOps is. It's more about you build your project, it goes to Kubernetes container, and the container goes and gets deployed in these Amazon Web Services or Microsoft Azure or Google Cloud. So that's the process of DevOps and server. As you see here, right, is the end-to-end development of application, both front-end, back-end, usually accessed by the client, and the back-end forms the core of the application where business logic is more applied. But heavy lifting is done at the back-end. The front-end is, it's more about having less traffic, keeping it light and other things. So I believe we are kind of 20 minutes out and we are in full stack development. So I want to stop here to take a quick pause and see if I can answer any questions. Any questions so far? All good? Okay. Ma'am, I have a quick question. So who are the major audiences? Second year, third year, and fourth year, or we have a mix of all of them?
Second year, third year are the major audience. Fourth year students have also joined. Okay, got it. So yeah, right. Okay. Any questions so far, ma'am? Please let me know if YouTube also, the live streaming also had any questions.
Live streaming, we started. Students are watching through live streaming.
Hi, sir.
We have our group of students here in the Zoom link also.
Okay, sure, ma'am. Any question comes there also, if you know, I can answer.
Hi, sir. Good morning.
Hi, Chardeep. Yep.
Yes, sir. My question is that front-end full stack developers are required to learn about every field available. So while in the job place, then it's required to know about every field, or they will be given task only at a particular field, sir.
So when you from an undergrad, when you get into the workforce, you are not expected to be a full stack developer. No. So I'm not sure like whether people are given options whether to be a developer, QE or anything, since everything is right now into one role. Say that you are given a development role, right? You're going to start somewhere. So they might place you in the front end team or the back end team. It's all about how you want to shape your career, right? Like 4 years, 5 years, or 6 years down the lane where you want to be, right? See, I'm not a full stack developer, but I know what is going on at each and every end. I can talk about servers, I can talk about backend. I know a little about database, but I know about DevOps, but my major area of concentration is front end. I'm pretty strong on front end. I know how to connect with backend, how to design the backend systems, and how a DevOps and something runs. So I started as a backend developer. I was like a year and a half, and then I was asked to move to front end. Then I started, learning front end. So it's more about you shaping your career, right? Opportunities are not always thrown to you. It's more about you grabbing opportunities in your career. So what I do is something from my personal learning. When I build something and there is my adjacent team who provides me the data, I go and work with them. I'm not even work. I'll try to understand what their work is. It's more about understanding an end-to-end system. And then after a while, I'm pretty much worked on the back end or a front end. Then I say that you develop an interest in the other area. So you just move to that area and then get an expert. So it's more, you cannot be a full stack developer overnight. It takes time to be a full stack developer. And at the starting your work, you are not expected to be a full stack developer. When you start your work, all they look at is your attitude more towards learning capacity. See, IT life, you have to learn. You have to learn all your life, right? When you're in your career. I'm still learning. I still devote some time towards learning whenever it's needed, but you have to keep learning all your lifetime when you're in IT career. So when you join, you are not expected to be a full stack developer. Rather, you are expected to solve the problem they give. Like it might be an aptitude problem. It might be a question where you are asked to solve in Java, JavaScript, your own tech stack. But when you get into the workforce, also they'll put you in a certain team, and then that's from there. How do you get to a full stack developer is up to you. Whether you want to be, or if you don't want, that's also up to you. You can stay strong in one field. Does that answer your question, Chardeep? Or
yes, sir. Thank you.
Yep. Okay. I think I'll move on to the next, right? So it's more on the front end web development, right? So I would like to know, so probably anyone could answer this question. What comes to your mind when you think of a front end web development? I don't need answers in technical terminology or anything like that, but I know like second year, third year, and fourth year students are there. So it's kind of spread across. So what comes to your mind? Like if you can answer anything, right? When it comes to front-end web development, what comes to your mind?
Like whatever the user sees and interacts.
Sure. Okay. Next. Anything else?
The one basic thing which will attract the user.
Okay. Good. Okay. Nice.
Designs
Creating a user interface.
Okay. Good. There was someone else talking. Okay. Yeah, pretty much that's whatever you guys told, right? That's what user interface is like. It's very basic, right? A front end, a web developer, or when you think of web development, you have to get into your customer's shoe, right? So design comes into a very first place. That's where UX plays a major role. In each and every company, there is a separate team called design team, UX team. that particular team will tell how the screen will look like, where the button goes, because research will be done, right? When you open a screen, where your first eyesight goes to is one particular thing, right? For example, I don't know whether you have noticed, always sign in button, irrespective of whichever website you go, most of them will have on the right hand corner of it, because that's a research they have done. That's how they design it. So it's like more important stuff, they will place it right in your eyesight, and very, very minimal one like terms and conditions, you have seen, like, who reads the terms and conditions, and other things will be placed at a place where, like, it's not even noticeable, but they have to place. That's the rule, right? They will place it. It's more like when you enter a shop or something, right? Very attractive things to kids will be in the lower shelves in their height to reach it, right? That's how the thinking is of the UX developer. So the UX team will give you the design of what you want to build, and then the development team will go and build it in the way that has been designed, right? So I'll give a basic architecture flow. There are a lot of things like data analytics, BI, data warehouse, storage, and other things. I'll not touch that, but so what happens when you type something in the web-based URL, right? So you go and type facebook.com or netflix.com or anything, right? You want to shop something, you type anything, right? So when the user browser types something, it goes to DNS. So DNS is called domain name system, right? So you build something, you host it somewhere. Say that I build an application, okay? Facebook.com, take it Facebook, right? Example of Facebook. When you type Facebook, Facebook is not the name map to that application that you have built. You are just giving a name Facebook to it, but computer doesn't understand what Facebook is. So when you type Facebook, it first goes to the DNS world, where it would say that it will be numbers. It will be the server number, like 123.5.56 or something like that. It will say, this number is associated with this particular name. So when the URL goes and hits this, it comes to that one particular DNS layer, and the DNS will say that, okay, it's facebook.com, go and load this particular server, right? So then the branching happens from DNS to load balancer. Now, what is load balancer? Have you guys ever experienced something like, I'm not sure, like in India, right? So yeah, Big Billion Day, then Amazon's festival or anything. Sometimes the server will crash, right? Because it's not properly load balanced. That is, I build an application, I host it in one server. That server can take only certain number of loads. So what I will do is, if you see here in the front end itself, it is in 2 VM. VM is like virtual machine, right? Consider it as a server to this part. Consider this as this server, okay? Whatever I'm talking about this VM, consider it as this particular box server. So I host my application in 2 or 3 servers, and the load balancer would evenly split the request to each and every server. If it is all targeted to one server, application will break. So if your front-end application breaks, then no matter if your back-end application is running or not, but your front-end is done and dusted, right? So that's the load balancer. Whatever the request comes in, it balances and it sends you to the front end. So front end, what it does is, it again goes and, because it says 100 load, it again goes and calls the backend. Backend is also through, it goes through backend VM1, and then the app server VM1 and VM2 are there. Backend is where it gets from, sometimes it's from data cache or sometimes from the database SQL. And this is what CDN caches I spoke about, right? So you load certain images, right? If I go to walmart.com or something, you load the certain things. So what will happen is, it will store it in the cache, and then it will give you the data. So I'll probably, let me see if I can give this example to you. Right. You see, this loaded pretty fast, right? This is an application that I'm leading. So I'll show my application as an example. It's available public, so that's why I'm showing it, since it's not internal. So I go to my network tab, right? I'll show it quickly. I'm going to refresh it, right? So these are the call it goes, right? And these are the status code. This is the time taken for each and everything to load. So let me see if I can get any hit status. These are all JS file. Okay, this is the best one. See, so see the status code, right? 200, where it is being served from memory cache, right? Which means that this image is already in the cache. That's the image, because we know that image doesn't change much of the time. So it is cached at the CDN level. So whenever your page loads, something is served from the cache. If this image is not served from the cache, it goes all the ways to the database, or like wherever the static folder is, tries to fetch it and give it to the UI. The time will be much more, right? So even, okay, these are all JS files that it's not served from cache, I believe. Let me check. Okay, yeah, this is served from cache too. So see here, this is called cache. It's hit. It's kind of a tar bit. It's related to our own internal word, but you might not. I'll explain later. But if you see the word cache, it means hit, which means that it is served from cache. So that's where this particular CDN cache is served. So it gives you the data to you most. When you are a web developer, you need to think that so there's a Google term called first interactive time. So when you load a website, if it takes forever for you to interact with that website, patients or customers will go away. There are multiple alternatives available out there in the world. Everything is digital right now, and multiple alternatives are out there in the world. So that time should be very less. So you have to quickly load the content. So I would always tell people that a developer who's a web developer has more responsibilities to think as a customer than the backend. Even the backend people have to think it, but you are the face of entire application. Front end is the face of your backend team, your server team, your DevOps team, and everything. If everything goes good, you are the one who are going to display the data. If anything goes wrong in the backend, you are the one who are going to show the user the sorry page, something went wrong and everything, right? So you are the face of the entire backbone of the entire team, So always, and also being a web developer, you have to interact with multiple teams to get the data from different places and show them in a proper time. So that's more about how the thinking has to be when you are a web developer. So I'll stop here. I'll see if there are any questions. There are something about notifications and push API also. I'll talk about that. Okay. If no questions, I'll talk briefly about notifications and push API, right? So it's more about, sorry?
Sir, I just have a small doubt. This is Samara Deepika from IT department. I think I'm audible, sir. Sir, like you spoke about DNS, load balancer, like we understood all the concepts, but what language should we learn all these in? Like, I think we need some coding for this, but from where will we learn that coding?
Got it. So, good question. So DNS and load balancer is more on the networking side, right? It's not a language or something that you learn, right? So when I always tell about something about DNS or load balancer, I just tell them in a simple term so that it'll be easy for people to map it out. But DNS by itself is a very big thing. There's a separate team for, even in Walmart, right? There's a separate team for DNS. It's a networking team. So I can get back to you if you're very interested in that networking part of knowing a DNS. I can get back to you. But when you join a company, when you are a developer will never be asked to work on DNS part. But knowing what DNS does always helps you, because you are a front-end developer and there is something wrong, something goes out, right? You are asked to investigate. You should know where the problem is. Okay, the request is not reaching me. So there is some problem between DNS or a load balancer. So let's go and debug into that. So if you want to know more about networking, I can give you the specific contents of DNS and load balancer. but that
So if
doesn't
you
come
have
under
time-
the web development or anything like that.
No, so if you have time, you can.
Yep, sure. I'll definitely share notes, but if you're over time by, I think we have half an hour, but you're over time, I'll share notes with ma'am who can share with you. And also I'll give the contact details of mine later. Whoever has questions, we can
Thank
communicate
you.
and I can send you the docs accordingly, right? Cool. Okay, so yeah, notifications API and push API are nothing but, it's just an API where the VM services front end calls or the back end by itself will call if they want to send a notifications to your app or anything, right? Then the app will receive it and then sends a push notification or notifications like that, just saying that, hey, something is ready for your pickup, come and pick it up and something like that. That's kind of an API part over there. So that's more on web development. So I'm going to go into Netflix microservice architecture. Any questions before that? Apart from the one I took from Amara, sorry.
I'm okay.
Yeah, you're a little feeble, Venkat, but yeah, I can hear you.
Sir, can you give me some of the best questions for the load time and performance?
Sorry?
Can you give me some of the best ways to improve load time and performance?
Great question. Yeah. So there is a tool in Google. I think it's Lighthouse. Yep. So when you build your application, you have to integrate the tool called Lighthouse. So Lighthouse is a Chrome plugin. Okay. So you build your website. Okay. So you are running it in your browser. Download that plugin called Lighthouse. It will give you where your performance is low. It will tell you that seriously, your performance is low, it will give that. Okay. And then it'll also give you the steps to improve it. For example, I'll give you an example. There are multiple ways to improve the performance of your website. And there's something called SLA. SLA is more about the industry standard of how much time a particular page or a service should serve you the data in. So a web page is expected to load within a second or 2 seconds based upon the amount of load it has. So to answer your question, Venkat, the one way is caching all your assets. So your assets is more about your images, right? You might think that an image might take only very less time to load. No, an image is an asset which cannot be compressed, too much from a web perspective. So what usually you have to do is you have to cache all your content. So when you are building out, when you're learning to build something on your own, you don't have CDN or anything like that. But what you can do is you can set a cache. That is a browser cache. Okay, a cache is nothing but it's stored in the browser memory. So what will happen is when you load the web browser, first it will hit the cache layer. Okay, it will first hit the cache and then only it will go and hit the data. If something is available in the cache, it will load immediately. So that's how you increase the load performance. And there's one more way. You have to identify all your CSS files and certain JavaScript files that loads. While loading, you have to cache them too. So, sorry. By this, you can improve the performance of your website. But these are only very few ways. There are multiple ways. That's why Lighthouse will help you to identify what is lagging and what you can improve. I can send documents according to that later after the session. Does that help, Venkat?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Okay, so I'll get into Netflix microservice architecture, right? So this is more about to give an overview about. I chose Netflix, and I 100% agree. It will be very difficult to understand the terms and technologies what is used inside Netflix, but this is something already available out there in public. So I chose Netflix so that you guys can map it, right? When you watch a video, a movie, or a show, you can map it something. I'm not sure, that's how I used to do. Whenever, even in college, or my undergrad or master's, whenever I see a product or whenever I see something, I try to imagine how this is possible from a technical perspective, how they might have done this, right? I might not know the answer, but my thinking would be like, okay, they would have done like this, they might have done like this. It might be very stupid, it might be wrong, but I used to think, right? When I go into a grocery shop, I used to see something. I also used to think like how it is available always, right? You go buy a lemonade or go lemonade or a juice or anything like that, right? each and every time you go, it's very rare that it's something is out of stock. Or how do they replenish it? Like, how they do the stock management, how the transportation logistics happen, how do they know that when they have to refill things, and the shipment has to arrive in time for that, how everything is taken care of. That's a supply chain technology. It's a huge thing, right? But I used to think on that, but though I'm not in supply chain tech, still with Walmart's major player is supply chain technology, but I used to think a lot about this. The same thing with the Netflix too, right? So you guys might think that, hey, people are browsing, showing the movies. It's not like YouTube is very different from Netflix, how the architecture wise. So these are screens, right? Yeah, you can watch it in a big screen, or kind of even in YouTube, Netflix, or you can go and do it in your mobile device or anything. So this is the client devices. So whenever the request goes, there is something called AWS ELB. Now, I don't know what AWS ELB technically, what terminology is used inside to achieve it, but it's a load balancer. I know it's a load balancer, whatever I spoke over here. That's a load balancer, but it's Amazon's own product. So they are not using something which is available in public. So give me 1 second. I'm going to note down all the links that I need to send you guys. So people were asking about DNS, load balancer, Lighthouse, performance improvement. So it comes to the AWS ELB, and then it goes to API gateway service. Now, you guys have to understand what a gateway is. So it's very pretty. The gateway tells you, gate is more about, protecting something. Right? Something unwanted comes in, the gateway protects us. That's what API gateway services is. So more about authenticating the incoming calls, making sure that it's not a spam or a bot making the multiple calls and other things. There are a lot of bot services out there, which goes and iteratively hits something, then makes the application down. So these API gateway services, it's a kind of a gatekeeper for you. It protects all the incoming requests, making sure that it's a proper request and other things. And then from API gateway services goes to multiple APIs, right? Each and every API handles a different logic. One is a sign up API. It only handles about the sign up, creating new account, other things. Discovery API. There might be more to discover about certain things, videos and other things. And then there is a Play API, right? Play API is more about when you click something, Play internally talks to multiple microservices. No, I'm only talking about the backend over here. Even the backend is kind of, it's kind of split across, and there is a backend cache also. I've spoken more about in the previous web development part, what is a UI cache, what is a browser cache, what is CDN. But here it is more on the backend cache. If you have played a video multiple times or something, it would cache it in the backend system. So when you play, for example, what show I can take in Netflix, some Breaking Bad or something like that, right? You click on Breaking Bad, you watch an episode, you pause it, it would have loaded that particular episode and stored in the cache for you according to your account and other things, right? So when you click Play API, first it goes and takes it from the cache if it is available in the cache. If not, then it goes and take it from the data stores, and then it goes into the streaming pipeline. And then they have the streaming pipeline will be applicable to all the architectures, but something close to Netflix because they have a separate way of handling things. So it goes to the streaming pipeline. It's just a pipeline process of adding all the videos. And then they use AWS S3. It's their own terminology servers, and then the Hadoop. So that's how the videos are rendered to you. But I'm just talking part of Netflix one, but it's actually huge. So I'll stop here. Any questions on this so far? I know I'm touching a lot of topic. It's more about, kindling your thoughts. That's the main goal of it, and giving you an idea of what a software development is. And, people in second year could start thinking more on that, what they could do, what projects they can do, and probably, change the way what you think about a problem or a product. And people in third year also, second and third year, it's all together. And people in fourth year who are facing interviews, who are expected to attend campus, it will be very helpful for them when there are a lot of questions asked about, and when you ask questions about the company, then you can ask a lot of questions like this: what product they do, how front end is handled, how they are doing the back end part. All these questions definitely would impress the interviewer, who will be thinking that, okay, this guy is very much interested and his attitude is good, and you might be given a go. So it's on the all parts of it. So I'm moving into next part. Any questions, ma'am, or anything I need to stop here for, give a few minutes before I jump?
Sir, I have a question, sir.
Mm-hmm.
Sir, it's a bit technical question. So I have been tinkering with the reverse proxy for a few months, and I just want to know how to fit that in microservice architecture.
No, I'm not able to hear you properly. What is that?
Sir, I was asking about reverse proxy, sir. How to fit reverse proxy in microservice architecture?
Okay, that's some. I'll note it down, and probably I can have a separate chat session with you on that. Is that okay? I need to actually.
Yeah, sure, sir.
Yeah, it's not that simple. So reverse proxy, you have to do it in the microservice architecture. I'll get you all the docs, and we can have a separate chat on that. Sure.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
Sure. I'm making note of. And you are in your third year or final year? Or second year? Who was asking that question? I think it's Satya. Okay, no worries. Any other questions? Or something I have to?
Sir, also I have a.
Yeah, I'm able to hear you. Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, Suhail.
Hello, sir. Can you hear?
Yes, I'm able to hear you.
Yes, sir. How do you configure the pipelines and for continuous integration and deployment, sir?
Okay. Yeah, that's more
sir,
about.
you can hear me, right? Okay.
Yes, I'm able to hear you. Yes. So continuous integration, that's a good question. That's more comes into the DevOps. I do have few examples of my own, but I'm not sure whether I can share it public. But what I'll do is I'll create a own separate pipeline, and then I can show you how the things works. Okay, I'll pick something that is not so sensitive inside the company, and then probably I'll kind of show you that. So what happens is, on a continuous integration deployment is, there is GitHub, right? Where all your code is there and everything. So with the GitHub, it's a source tree, right? So GitHub is a source tree. You create a PR, you merge into master, right? It's just one commit. So the continuous integration is that master branch will, there will be a certain steps, say that you configure it in your looper and concord file, saying that you need to run the automation test cases, you need to run the lint test case and other things, and everything is successful. What will happen is automatically you configure in the looper to trigger a concord job. That concord job will go and deploy your code in the stage, and probably first stage dev. Right. So when you merge anything to master, automatically these jobs will be triggered from looper to concord, and concord will, after the runs all the test cases, concord will go and deploy your code in dev. Right. So what happens here is that the deployment will go and deploy your particular code to one of the servers here, and the servers will be allocated to you for application wise. So what will happen is it will go and deploy it in the dev. Once the dev deployment is completed, it will go and deploy it in stage. And after stage, the deployment pipeline will stop. It won't go to prod, right? You can configure that. Excuse me. You can configure that, because once it goes to stage, the process stops there. Most companies stop it. Like at least I know we do stop it, because it's very consumer facing application. What we do is we stop it at stage, And in the stage, we do a regression testing ourselves. And the same pipeline, it will be waiting to be promoted to prod. It will, like, it's not that technically it's not possible to promote it to prod. We kind of insert a gateway. After stage deployment is done, we won't allow the pipeline to execute the prod, where we give a gateway of, it will generate a form. It's a form more like you have to go click that form and click approve. Once you, only certain admin like managers, tech leads will have access to it. Once they click approve, only that particular code will be deployed to prod. That's how to visualize it goes in. But in the backend, there is Concord, Looper, and then it goes and deploys to your server. So that's called a more DevOps process. Does that help, Suhail, to visualize?
Yes, sir. Yes, I got it, sir. Thank you.
Yep, no worries. But if you need more documentation on DevOps and other things, I'll be happy to help you out.
Sure, sir. Please.
Sure. Sure. So I'll get into healthcare, right? So we just have like 10 more minutes. So I'll try to quickly wrap up these three things. So what comes to your mind when you think about healthcare? Right, healthcare in India is very different than healthcare in US. So, but it's kind of, they're trying to adapt more process, which is more globalized. But how do you think that technology can solve a lot of problems in healthcare? Any examples that you guys could think of? Okay, I'll give you certain examples, right? It's going to be, we are not too far away even in India, everything they're going to change into digital. Even your normal clinic visit is going to be digital. I remember like back in my days, like, when we want to go to a hospital or a clinic, we used to carry a file and everything. Now all gone. There is no file, there is no paper. Your data is out there in the world, but it's carried too. Right, it's more like anyone. If you have your paper, if your health records, you keep it in your home, and then you go back to your hospital, give it, and then get it back again. But it's not in your control anymore. It's out there in the world. Then it's a responsibility of the healthcare, like who provides you health, to maintain that data and safeguard it. If something is breached, then I'm not sure about in India, but here there's something called HIPAA, Health Information Privacy Protection Act. So if even developers like us also have to go through that HIPAA regulation exam and everything to make sure that how safely we handle our patients' data. Right now, I have access to people who visit Walmart health clinics and other things, but how safely I handle that, how safely I maintain those records is something, the training that gives you. So it's more about everything is digital, then you have to manage it. I'll give you a walkthrough, probably that might be. This is something terminologies in healthcare IT. It's the health information technology refers to, like, it's more on the electronic system I spoke about, right? Used to store, share, and analyze health information. It's called electronic health record, personal health record, electronic prescribing. There's something called e-prescribing. And on top of it, there is privacy and security. It applies to healthcare more than to other applications. Even e-commerce, you can just go and browse anything and other things, but in private security will be implemented, but it's very heavy on healthcare applications. So I'll give you one quick ramp down of this, right? So consider me as an actor, as a user, right? I go and schedule an appointment online. Everything is digital. I go to a clinic, right? I want to visit some clinic. I schedule an appointment online. I provide all my information, right? You might be thinking that, hey, what is a big deal in giving your first name and last name and date of birth? It's a huge thing. With these three things, I'll be able to get your whole Jadagam kind of thing, right? With this in US, it's three things: your first name, last name, and your date of birth. Your entire data is with me. I know who you are, where you shop, what you do, everything. I'll be able to get it. That's why we protect them. We protect them like, very secure and safe. That's so that, other people are not, doesn't breach the record and get the records and, make unnecessary spam calls or kind of spoil your data. So I schedule an appointment. I provide all my details, right? That's a patient portal. So these first row is where we as a common public access And the second row is more about inside the clinic. When you visit a particular clinic or a hospital, what happens inside there digitally. The third row is more about your doctor, your provider. We call them as the providers. The providers, how they handle it, like digitally. And the final one is the pharmacy that gives you the medications, how digitally everything is handled. In US, you are not allowed to, or a provider is not allowed to give anything in written, any tablets, right? So when you go and visit an appointment, you schedule an appointment online, you can manage an appointment, you can cancel an appointment, you can reschedule it and other things. And then the same person goes into a clinic, walks into a clinic, and then there's a check-in kiosk or anything where or the patient meets a clinician or technician where they would check you in that you have been, okay, this is the person XYZ came into the clinic, he has checked in, ready to visit the doctor. Okay, all these informations are fed into doctor's system too. So patient registration happens there. If it's the first time, the registration confirmation happens in the clinic. Now then it again comes into the provider. This is where the doctors comes into play. So the provider sees the patient, and the provider will always have a system next to him where he will enter all the records. This is the BP, this is the sugar level, here are all the details of this particular patient I am actually attending. So he will update all the record over there. Right. So then if there is any problem with you, okay, he will prescribe you some medicine, and that medicine is not given to you in hand, right? Saying that, okay, hey, go to the pharmacy and get this medicine. No, it's not done like that. And they won't do it. It's against the law. So what they usually do is they send it to the pharmacy. So, okay, they'll ask, like, there are multiple pharmacies here, which pharmacy you want to go and collect your prescription from. The patient would say that, okay, so and so street, I'll get it from this Walmart pharmacy or CVS or Walgreens. So what happens is the doctor sends the prescription to that particular store, clinic store. So it goes over there. And when the doctor updates all his medical records online for the particular patient, it gets updated to that particular patient's individual health record. Also, the patient can go later after visit summary, like, this is not paper. After the visit is done, the patient can go log into their portal and manage their record digitally. It will show that this is the time you visited the doctor. These are the things doctors told you, the conversation between you and the doctor, and any important notes the doctor wants you to know will be in the after visit summary. If you have any questions, right, you can chat with your doctor. So there's a chat button, you click, you send your questions. The nurse or a clinician who's an assistant to the doctor would receive that message, and then they will communicate with the doctor and reply back to you. Or the doctor might reply back to you. It depends, actually depends on the volume of traffic the doctor attends at that particular day. So when you go into pharmacy, so that you might ask, like, hey, how they send it? They send it through SureScripts. SureScripts is actually a company, but that's how they send the prescription from a doctor's office to a pharmacy. It happens securely. No one can intercept and see what it is. And it will be very clearly for this is the patient's first name, last name, phone number, address, and these are the things I have prescribed for him. So you have to drop into your pharmacy, give your ID card, so they will make sure that you are the person you are collecting for. And in the pharmacy itself, like I worked in pharmacy for 1 year before jumping into Walmart Health, as a clinic completely. So but what happens in pharmacy, right? There are 3 major players across US. That's one is Walgreens, CVS, and then third is the Walmart. So how these pharmacies mostly operate is first the request comes in, then it goes to check. What they will do is they will check if this particular drug, we don't call it as medicine, we call them as drug actually, any medications prescribed to the patient. So they will check drug check utilization. That is, they will check your medical records, send the drug to a series of algorithms in the backend to make sure that if this particular drug will cause any problem to you or a side effect to you based on your medical history. Everything, whatever I'm talking currently, everything is done through algorithms, data structures, or everything is through technology. Nothing is manual over here. So it runs all these checks in the background. And if there is any red flag, that if, hey, this patient is kind of 60 years above, he has this past medical history, this particular drug is prescribed to this person, it might cause this side effect. It raises a red flag. Then the pharmacy would say that, no, we can't dispense this drug to you. We have to talk to your doctor's office, and then we'll later call you, right? So these process happens actually. So if it is smooth process, right, happy path scenario, then the patient comes in, completes the filling and the bagging, and the patient collects the medication and then goes back again. If the prescription is given to you for like 3 months, and after a month you need to do a refill, and if you have not, prescription reminders will come to you from that pharmacy saying that is also through app. There's a pharmacy app where you can connect all your accounts. It will send you reminders that, hey, your date is done, you're due soon, come and refill your prescriptions. And for elderly people, they do online refill for free of cost, and they send it to your home and other things, the other things. I'm talking only 10 to 20, even 10% of what technically it's achievable in healthcare currently, but there are a lot of things. And considering in population with India, there are a lot of people, more need for healthcare, more hospitals coming, more clinics coming. The need for solving a patient's problem, or probably solving a problem for a hospital, is going to be huge. So it's a very interesting industry to work in. So I wanted to share how healthcare and other things is. So that's why I chose to talk a little bit about healthcare. We are at time, I believe. So I thought of covering more on the healthcare, but if anyone is interested, I'll give my contact. Probably we can talk or chat more about it, and even other questions that you guys have, or a side project you want to kick in, other things. So I'll pause. I'll give like a few minutes for Q&A before I jump on to some, kind of inputs to you guys, depending on the year you are in. Any questions so far?
So,
Mm-hmm.
good morning, sir. Can you hear me, sir?
Morning, Shri. Yeah, I'm able to hear you.
Sir, you have mentioned about the architecture in healthcare methods. You have covered some of the topics. So, as a beginner, just how to start with this? So, what are the concepts we have to concentrate on to get to know about this?
Okay, so your question is more about how to be a full stack developer as a beginner, kind of thing, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so first, see, it's more about as a beginner, you cannot understand, you cannot learn everything, right? You have to first take one part of it, right? Say that, okay, I'll ask you this question. You are more interested in building backend or, Java and other things, or you are more interested in building the web development, web UI and other things?
In
What
web
you are
development.
Sorry?
Web development.
Oh, it's kind of echoing. You said backend or you said UI?
So backend.
Okay, backend, right? You start there, right? First, master something that you learn. Say that you are learning Java, right? So master in that, right? Java is kind of a C, right? You might think it's a very small thing. There are a lot of different versions and other things. So start mastering something that you learn, right? If you're in Java, try to learn more about Java and start building the microservices API. There is a separate backend architecture, right? Then you can start learning a lot of documents and other things about backend architecture. I can refer you to certain links where you can go through as a beginner, right? I do have certain links. I always give my new joinees who I join. So I'll just send you those backend architecture. So first master the backend one. So know how to build an API, how to use Maven, how to use Spring Boot, how you can build the microservices architecture. For this itself will take you some time, okay? Then when you are into a job, when you build these things, definitely there will be the certain team that will be consuming your backend services. Once you are pretty comfortable at your area, try to know who your consumer is. Your consumer might, so your consumer is one UI team, right? So first, before that, you need to know your own architecture, your own backend architecture, how your backend architecture works, how it fetches the data and other things. After that, then you move towards. It's a gradual process. You cannot be a full stack developer. Before joining a job, you cannot be a full stack developer. you might know the tech stacks that are used across a full stack development. Maybe you can know JavaScript, you can know React.js, you might know Java, you might know Spring Boot, you might know Maven, other tools to use, but knowing them doesn't make you a full stack developer. A full stack developer is more about you have worked in all those paths makes you a full stack developer. So that you first understand more about your backend architecture, and then move on to UI to apply the skills that you have learned. You are kind of when you say full stack developer, knowing alone doesn't mean enough, but you have to start working on it. When you work on it, then you become a full stack developer. So as a first step, start knowing your backend architecture, Java and other things, then start learning the JavaScript, React, and other things. Start doing your own small projects. You can build very small things, and then probably, you can know what it is. And then when you start actually working on it, you become a full stack developer. And then there is DevOps and other things, but in most of the companies, there is a separate team called DevOps that takes care of it. But it's very good to know what happens in the DevOps. Now, in Walmart, taking my project, there is no, we don't have to do anything, even not only us, 20,000 people across Walmart who are working as developers, they don't need to do anything on DevOps. There's a separate team for DevOps. They are 24/7, different in 2 time zones, US and India, they work. But I know what happens. I don't know how to go and do that, but I know what happens there. So if anything goes wrong, I know, okay, this is where the problem is. Then I'll go and point the right people and say, hey, this is the problem. Will your team be able to solve and help us? So that is something you gain over a period of time through experience. Does that help you? Yeah. So which year you are in, Shri? Second, third, fourth year? Third year?
Yes.
Okay, good. Yeah, you are about in the right time to learn all the skills. I would say that learn Java, learn JavaScript, learn Python, do small projects. It doesn't need to be anything. Take a small one. There are a lot of APIs available in the outside world. It's for free. You can just search for this particular API. It's free. People might be very interested in it. It is all about your interest. What I would do is I'm more into sports industry and other things. I like sports a lot. So there are a lot of sports API available in the outline for example, cricket or soccer, whatever. It's data is available there. I'll use to consume the data. With the data in the domain, I'll try to see what problem I can solve. Or if this is the player and this player can do where he can play, where his strengths are. These data are available publicly outside. You don't need to pay anything. You will get these data. So try to do certain things like that. And for front end, right, I do see a question like, front end since, React, Bootstrap, Angular. So I would say that a front end developer, as a fresher, we don't expect much from a front end developer, right? When we, ma'am, I think we 9:30, do you have any class or anything, or I can take extra 10 minutes or something to answer all the questions, ma'am?
Yeah, Lakshman, you can proceed for another 5 more minutes.
Okay, sure, ma'am. Yeah, I'll take this as a last question, then probably I'll give some inputs, and then we'll connect back through email or LinkedIn. So to answer your question, Hashni, so yes, what we expect is, it's more about, in the first we expect is the attitude of the person, if they are willing to learn, right? It's a learning process. And we might give them a problem, and we might ask some basic questions like how to improve a performance. And if you have a huge load, how do you handle that load? So, excuse me, to start with, I thought of running these React things with you guys, but I'll share this link after this meeting. So you guys can go through this. It's just a straightforward one. It'll give you basic things, how to build an web application, installing React and everything. So you can start there, and probably if any guidance is required, I can help you out. A group of students or anything, we can have some calls at like once a week or once in 2 weeks, where I can help you with your small projects. People who are aspiring to be a front-end developer or even a full stack, and to start with the front-end web development, try to create a small website. It's very easy. With React, with new libraries coming in, they will take care of most of the things. All you have to do is concentrate on the logic. That's it. Try to have it as a fun, 2 or 3 people, you can build something for RMK itself, right? Try to see what problem they have, and then you try to build something for them. Or if you're a group of 10 people, collect all the profiles, try to build a catalog of all the 100 students, and then, try to build a website for fun. It's just for, normal things. So any help or anything needed over there, I can help you guys out. I've provided my contact information here. This is my LinkedIn profile. I'll post it in the chat. It'll be easy. And then, and this is my email, personal email. If you guys are interested in learning more about certain things, or if you want to come for masters or need to know more about anything, I'll be happy to help. So, yep. I'll conclude here, and I'll give back 2 to 3 minutes to ma'am if she has anything to cover, since you guys have only 5 minutes. Ma'am, over to you, ma'am.
Yeah, yes, Lakshman. Even if the students have more queries, let us connect once again in another plan of webinar or a kind of guest lecture series. As well, I would like to get you a service for equipping them in full stack technology, mainly the web development frameworks. So I'm very much thankful to you, Lakshman. And I think this session covered the overview of full stack development, and you have given an overview of tech stack, web development architecture flow, and you have taken the well-known example of everyone Netflix microservice architecture, and what is the role of your concern in healthcare and IT, as well how IT are involving in healthcare. So all these topics well narrated in 1 hour. So I hope the session could be of very useful. So I now request our HOD IT, Dr. Shirin Banu, to propose the vote of thanks. Welcome, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much. Respected Principal, sir, respected HOD of CSE Department, Dr. T. Sedukarasi, ma'am, faculty members, my dear students, Mr. Lakshman, warm welcome and happy morning to one and all present here. It's indeed a very great session by Mr. Lakshman Arnachalam, who's a senior software engineer, Walmart Labs from USA. Thank you so much for delivering this session. And on this occasion, I would like to thank our management for initiating this wonderful technical lecture series for the benefit of our students and faculty. And Mr. Lakshman has kickstarted this technical webinar series. Thank you so much. It's been a wonderful session covering the full stack development, and also how healthcare sector can also leverage this kind of technology. And there is a vast difference, as you mentioned, between US and India. So I think students, you can take this into consideration and you can work on with this healthcare sector. And you also covered some points about microservice architecture, which is the need of the hour today for all the CSE allied group of students. So students can make use of these sessions, and you can interact with the experts so that you can also come to know about what is happening in the industries like Walmart, and you can also interact with your alumni like Mr. Lakshman. He is our alumnus of 2014 batch from Computer Science and Engineering of RMK Engineering College. And I once again thank all the faculty members and students who are also being part of this program, attending this session. And thank you, Dr. Sedukarasi ma'am, for giving me an opportunity to propose a vote of thanks. And special thanks to Lakshman, and you're coming forward to help all the students with all your knowledge, whatever you have. Thank you so much. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am. Thanks, Lakshman, for your time.
Thank you, ma'am.
And your wonderful lecture. We will meet in due course. Thanks a lot.
Sure.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank
you all. I hope you have a good day. Bye.